Now, Plato utilizes an analogy to illustrate human understanding of the world and the nature by which humans understand or come to understand the real world, or the opposite of that, the nature by which they do not understand the world that revolves around them. And so Plato's analogy can be found in the Allegory of the Cave in Book 7 of the Republic. And so what Plato basically says is that we're all akin to prisoners in a cave, facing the rear wall of this cave. We are chained up, and we are chained up in such a way that we cannot turn our heads around to the side, that is. And behind us and in between us is fire, and behind us are our captors that move around. And all we see in this cave are the shadows casted by our captors in the fire alike. And so in Plato's analogy, all we see since birth, since we are chained up since birth in this cave, in this very dark cave, are the shadows casted by our captors and the fire. And so what happens is that Plato utilizes this metaphor to symbolize the idea that the shadows that we see are illusions that we mistake for the real world. And if one is to be able to move around slightly and see the source of the shadows, such as the fire or the captures, then he would have gained some level of understanding. But the real goal is to escape the cave altogether and see the daylight outside of the cave, and more importantly, see the sun outside of the cave. So since birth, we see these shadows in the cave in which we are prisoners of, and we mistake these shadows for real objects, when in reality they are illusions and appearances. So Plato argues that most people see this empirical world only, the world of appearances that is, and mistake it for reality. However, some people are able to move their heads around, escape a little bit inside the cave, see the sources of the shadows, and gain some level of understanding outside of the world of appearances. But as I said earlier, the ultimate goal, in accordance with Plato, is to escape the cave altogether. And in so doing, you would be able to see the sun. And so in Plato's metaphor or analogy, a prisoner is freed. That is, he frees himself somehow and is able to see the daylight and see the sunlight. Initially, he's blinded by the sunlight. And so in being blinded by the sunlight, he is initially unable to see, but gradually is able to comprehend the real world upon his escape from the cave. Now, this prisoner comes back to the cave, and in so doing, he is eager to share his newfound knowledge with the prisoners whom he shared the cave with. But in so doing, he is ridiculed by the other prisoners. And this is another metaphor by Plato to suggest that there is a difficulty to enlightenment, and so thinkers and philosophers face a difficult time in sharing new ideas with individuals, because enlightenment is a difficult process that must be taken by an individual's effort themselves, by their effort themselves.